I grew up around hunting. I didn't really hunt. I didn't have the patience for it, for being 100% honest. And so I didn't do a ton of it. I had a good friend of mine, probably 15 years ago now, take me on a turkey hunt, and from there I was hooked. Initially, there was that aspect and draw from where I knew I couldn't compete, you know, in CrossFit or whatever I was doing forever. Hunting is something that I feel like I can compete for a long time. Grew up a mile or two from here, and so I know these woods. We were up at Matt's house, my best friend in the world, growing up yesterday, and it just brought back memories of us being out there and building teepees, building forts, whatever, climbing, jumping off things. I have that connection, obviously, to these woods, but man, when you go out west, it's just something about it just feels right. It feels like that's what we're supposed to be, where we're supposed to be. It feels like that's what we're supposed to do, is be out there. And I think you need to know where that food comes from. And I think there is a disconnect, and I'll say that I waste a whole lot less food. There's a connection to that food. You know, obviously we're sitting on our farm, ranch, whatever you want to call it, and you see bison out here that are eventually going to end up on a table. And so, you know, when we got this land, there's 160-ish acres. Just kind of wanted that connection with having animals out here, having the kids have something to take care of, something we could all do together. It's pretty cool to see the kids get fired up, especially when we're working them and doing those types of things. And, you know, eventually to give them something that they have to actually take care of with us. You know, right now it's just they're doing it alongside of us, but one of the days they can start running that tractor out there and doing those things. Trice is about ready. And I think it's been a confirmed, debunked myth that hunters aren't conservationists. I think hunters, you can look at it, pour in the most money of any group to conservation, because you look at it even from a vegan perspective, vegetarian perspective, whichever you want to look at it, we both want the same thing. We want more animals, healthier herds or groups or whatever for our kids and for their kids in the future. We both want the same thing. It's just those herds are going to have to be managed in some way, shape, or form. And then when you look at what predators do to some of these animals, hunting is a lot more humane than, you know, what happens to those animals in the wild. So I think hunting is the most humane, and is the, you know, taking ethical shots in the way we do it and do those things, then yeah, you're getting the cleanest, most ethically raised meat out there. We have, you know, Mayhem athlete, which is preparing people from the high-level games athlete to somebody who's just getting off the couch. And I think Mayhem Hunt is somewhere in between all of that, right? I think it's guys, girls that are into hunting, a little bit maybe intimidated by what they see, high-level gymnastics, high-level Olympic lifting, but it's the CrossFit methodology. Instead of a barbell, a lot of the time they'll use sandbags, which we still do use a barbell, or instead of, you know, a bunch of high-level gymnastics, they do it on the floor, or, you know, we might even still do some toes to bar and things like that, but it's more intensity / grunt work based than higher skill, but it's still CrossFit. But it's high intensity functional movements, constantly varied. So I think it's a little less intimidating. It's something we've learned over the years that, you know, you can lose some intensity if you don't have those skills. And so we've got, you know, different levels for guys and girls that come into it, so they're prepared. You know, I don't ever want somebody to feel like they're in over their head going after an animal, but then think, oh, I can't get up there and get that animal and get it out. I love being outdoors, but I love spending time with my kids and being out here and just being fit for life. And so that's our big push, is to make sure people are prepared. There's a physical side, there's a mental side and emotional side to hunting that out west specifically, you know, you're covering miles on miles, you're climbing hundreds, if not thousands of feet, you're on your feet multiple hours a day, carrying things, you know, thinking, oh, we're gonna see something, not seeing something, and there's this roller coaster going on in your head. There's the weather that you don't take into account until you get out there and you're actually in it, you know, wet, cold, windy, hot, both, all three. One, it's hard to factor into training, but two, until you've actually done it and experienced it, you don't know what's gonna happen to you physically, what's gonna happen to you mentally in those situations, and it's a good test. You know, we talk a lot about having things to train for. I'm not a huge goals guy, as in, you know, numbers on a scale, numbers on a pull-up bar, or on weight, especially anymore. But I like to have a goal of something that I'm training for, whether it's, you know, a hunt or even just a local competition, which we're doing this weekend. And so whether you're competing at the CrossFit Games, doing 100 miles on a mountain bike, trying to get sub 9 hours, or hunting in the mountains, I feel like all of those take different physical training templates, but the common denominator is they're hard, right? You know, they're physical and they're hard. They can be trained for 100%, but they're not something that you can just like walk into without mentally getting prepared and physically getting prepared. If you really think about it from a gear perspective, the one thing that you need to put the most time into, most preparation into, and know the most about is your boot, because that's where it all starts, right? That's the thing that you're on the most. You know, your pants, you can kind of get by if they are a little bit or not optimal. But if you have a bad shoe, bad boot, you know, your feet don't feel good. I mean, it's literally what connects you to the ground. So if that's the one thing that's holding you back, you should definitely train in it in some capacity before you head out west, especially. Obviously, you can nerd out on gear way more than you want to. The one thing that I've, you know, influenced the group the most on is the shoe or boot style that we all wear, a lot of us wear. I started with the original tracker, and then slowly these guys were like, nah, I don't think that's for me. I don't think it'll work. I don't think it'll be good. And then lo and behold, a couple of them are wearing it now, and the next iteration's even better. But that's the one area that I've probably put the most into. Like, you don't realize till you get out there being on your feet for that long and in just different terrains, different, you know, very slick shale, or we were in some like avalanche chutes that were pretty miserable to walk in, but the shoe it just works really well in all those different areas. You know, it's funny, a couple of the guys that are up there regularly, that guide up there, they're like, oh, I could see that down in the lower part, but up there, you won't be able to, you know, your feet will kill you and blah, blah, blah. And then I got done and they were like, how was it? And it was completely fine. So it was, even a couple of them were like, what were those boots? What are those boots? So we'll see what happens if we ever go back. Kind of struggled with knee stuff ever since 2017 when I tore my meniscus. I went the full opposite to where it was like super thick trail or super thick running shoes, and it honestly would make it worse. So I kind of dabbled in just running barefoot. I was like, all right, I'm gonna ease back into running, run for a minute, walk for a minute, but barefoot, no shoes, no nothing. And then just kind of went down the rabbit hole finding different barefoot shoes, and came across Vivo, the trackers, and loved them. We went out west, found those, started wearing those in cardio or gymnastics based workouts or light barbell stuff. And then I would just wear normal shoes, normal CrossFit shoes for strength work. And then I just got tired of bringing multiple shoes. So I was like, screw it, we'll just start wearing barefoot all the time, and really haven't looked back. So that's been probably two and a half years ago. I think my dad coined the phrase that I'm hard on shit, because I break stuff pretty regularly and beat things up. The original trackers that I had, I've hunted in for 3 years. They're up at the house, and they've stood the test of time. I'm probably about, 100-ish miles into this newest pair, and they're still great. You know, with what we do with Mayhem Hunt, with just my own training, Vivo has had my feet covered from the beginning. I think having the Vivo Primus Lite as the original shoe that I wore, and then going to the Vivo Barefoot Tracker, and we, you know, everywhere in between, from the gym to the woods, we have it covered.